thank you all for coming. We really appreciate those of you that have been here a few times and the new faces in the crowd. Thank you. We appreciate it. It's a cold, rainy night, but we do thank you. It's important. It's more evident than ever in these types of weather conditions how badly we do need a new building. We will, at the conclusion of this presentation, have a tour. Encourage everybody possible to please take the time. It's not going to be 10 hours, but it'll give you a real good sense as to what's going on. That way you can share information firsthand and accurately. Friends, neighbors, relatives, your kids, and anybody else you can think of. Please share that information. We'd appreciate it. We're also going to be having another tour on the 21st, 10 a.m. through 2 p.m. Brandon is going to be hosting pretty much such as an open house, but we'll be doing tours all day long. We are hoping to get hundreds and hundreds of people through the doors so that they can see the conditions. I'd like to give a shout out to WHCA. Ryan, thank you guys for coming. Thank you for filming these. The prior forums are on video. They're available on their website, and they're also being broadcast on channel 6. They changed it, channel 6. And they're being broadcast 4 times a day. So that if there's something you want to go back to, want to look over, or you want to recommend for someone to watch, that's accessible to you. I'm Fred Small, I chair the committee. I'd like to take a quick moment or two and just go around the room with some of the members of the building committee. Jeff Simonak, our superintendent, George Farrow, our assistant superintendent, Brandon Frost, our principal here, Rich Pullican is on the committee, Beth Stafford from the school committee. Crystal. Crystal, I'm sorry. You're blending in over there. Crystal Regan, building committee. Kathleen Otina, who's on the committee. And everyone knows Bob Curran on the committee. So we've had quite a good diverse group, a lot of different backgrounds, etc. As I mentioned, school committee folks, Beth Stafford does chair the school committee. I'm on the school committee on my 12th year. I don't know, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see anyone else. Justin Evans is on the building committee. Jeez, I think of him as a selectman, not a building committee member. But from the board of selectmen, we do have Justin Evans. I thought I saw Sean Kane. There's Sean. And we have the chairman of the board of selectmen, Kyle Kowalski, here as well. So we do thank you folks for taking your time and coming out. We have our professional team, which consists of 2 separate firms, Collier's Project Management. Mike Carroll is our representative. He's our, what we call OPM, and generally the one that we phone and bother as much as possible. We have AI3 Architects. We are all familiar with them. Those were the folks that built our high school. So we're still indebted to them for that. Troy Randall, Julie, and I'm not going to try and butcher the last name.
Rivera.
Yeah. I thought it was Rahili.
I know Barry.
Oh. Shows you what I know sometimes. And those are our architects, and they help us get through all the paces with MSBA as well. On that note, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Carroll.
So I think before we get going with the presentation, we're going to try and get through a lot of information tonight, but we wanted to start with the video, about 5 minutes for you to kind of get a general oversight before we get going.
Hello and welcome. My name is Jeff Simonak, the superintendent of the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District, and I'd like to share with you the proposal for our new Whitman Middle School project. The Whitman Middle School project began over 3 years ago with a statement of interest to the MSBA and a comprehensive feasibility study. As part of this process, educational visioning and programming sessions were held with all stakeholders, including faculty, staff, administration, students, building committee, and school committee members. During this entire process, development of 13 different building options arose. After many meetings and a collaborative effort between the school committee members and committee members, the Whitman Middle School Building Committee selected the new construction option of a 675 student middle school design for grades 5 through 8, which also includes a 450-seat auditorium. The plan constructs an entirely new building behind the existing to avoid direct disruption to current students and staff. Once complete, the existing will be demolished, resulting in a much more open campus with numerous community benefits. Traffic flow for buses, vehicles, and walkers will be significantly improved, as well as increasing and distributing parking to better accommodate faculty, staff, and visitors during the school week and events at night or on the weekends. The project includes the reconstruction of 4 existing athletic fields while maintaining town-owned fields and incorporates a defined natural fitness path for walking or running. The design draws inspiration from the backdrop of trees that surround the site, affording student opportunities for direct connections to their local ecology. The new 3-story middle school is organized such that community spaces like the auditorium, dining space, and gymnasium are easily accessible during public events. Along the front of the building, the administration suite overlooks the campus for improved safety and security. The main entrance is flanked by the auditorium, which will serve as an asset to the community and support the district's music and performing arts educational program. Inside, the 450-seat auditorium will include a 1,600 square foot stage, the appropriate acoustics, lighting, and technology necessary for a middle school performance space. Connecting the auditorium to the dining space is a reimagined Main Street or student commons that include space for interaction and to display Whitman's pride and heritage. This multi-story atrium brings inviting, natural daylight to the center of the building through a direct connection to an outdoor courtyard. The courtyard is enclosed on 3 sides, keeping users protected during the day while maintaining access to the adjacent wetlands for real-world learning opportunities. At the southern end of Main Street is an open dining space that is appropriately sized to accommodate all daily seatings, after-school programs, and large gatherings. From here, the secondary entrance leads back to the front of the building, facilitating outdoor access to an engaging public plaza for dining opportunities and recess. The compact building plan is positioned for optimal solar orientation and is designed to be 100% electric and solar ready. Integrating sun shading devices within a highly effective building envelope are necessary to migrate solar heat gain, reduce thermal loads, and reduce the building's annual operating costs. The proposed materials are durable, low maintenance, and recyclable, contributing to the project's sustainability goals. The gymnasium contains 3 teaching stations and a bleacher seating capacity for approximately 160 spectators, with additional viewing possible from around the court. A 2,000 square foot multi-purpose wellness space, the equivalent size of our existing turf gym, will enhance the students' daily fitness experience and community use on the weekends with modern amenities, natural daylighting, and direct access to the interior. Of course, a middle school would be incomplete without classrooms that are tailored to meet the evolving modern learning environment. Technology, storage, natural daylight, ventilation, air conditioning, proper acoustics, and direct access to small group learning spaces are all integrated into every classroom to ensure a healthy and productive school day. Each grade level is situated within its own lane, a neighborhood, and is organized to facilitate team teaching and collaboration. A layering of functional learning space maximizes usable area without increasing building size. These open and flexible academic wings include resource rooms and collaboration spaces necessary to support a diversity of learning types, integrated special education, and informal knowledge sharing. Outside of core academics, the Project Innovation Lab, Performance Technology Lab, and Art Classroom provide necessary space for the type of hands-on exploration critical for a middle school age student. These project-based labs are on the 2-story media center positioned at the heart of the school and another resource for community functions or committee meetings. Altogether, this compact design packs the essential educational and community needs into a new Whitman Middle School that will endure for the next 50 years and beyond. For more information and to stay informed, please visit our project website at www.wmsproject.org. Thank you.
There'll be a test on the website later.
And we will have that QR code up there as well for you later if you need it. So getting back into the overall project budget, everybody's always wants to understand that. Total project budget right now is $135 million. Of that, we're receiving a state grant of $45.6 million. That's the money coming in from the state to offset some of our costs. And ultimately, the total tax contribution right now is about $89.6 million. What does that mean? That means that we're going to be working towards a a taxpayer number that we'll talk about towards the end here. As far as the history here goes, I'm going to turn this over to Jeff, and I'm going to let him kind of run through the history and a lot of the process coming up here.
Thanks, Mike. So again, my name is Jeff Simonak. It's really weird when you hear your voice over TV a little bit. I usually don't hear that. Hopefully I didn't make too many mistakes. Superintendent, and before I get into this, I just want to give you a little bit of a history before I get into the history of this project. So I was a principal here. I started here in 2010. Became superintendent in 2018. George Farrow, the assistant superintendent, happened to be the middle school principal here from 2003 to 2018. So who better to know about this building than this man right here, who's been an integral part of this team. George and I came on board, luckily for us, and hopefully the towns feel we're doing a good job, in 2018. And one of the first things we did was we tasked Crystal over in the corner and Ernie Sandlin, Director of Facilities, to write a statement of interest for this building. We believe that this should have been a statement of interest in 2014 or 2015, and we'd be in a new building by now. Because if you guys walk around and see this building, you'll see how aged it is and see how it's not satisfactory for our students. So we tasked them to do that, and we submitted it to the MSBA, the Mass School Building Authority, knowing it was probably going to take 4 to 5 years to get to where we are, or to be accepted by the MSBA. We submitted, MSBA came down, and we met in one of the classrooms with their VIPs, Diane Sullivan being one of them, and they walked the building and they said, wow, we think you got a project here. In fact, who's your director of facilities? Because he's holding this together with rubber bands and paper clips. That's what she said. School committee member from Brookline. I remember it vividly. Then we got a call and said, you're being invited to come to Boston December 19th, or December of 2019, to be accepted into this project. And I said, wow, that's pretty cool. Are we accepted? And they said, you're going to be accepted. First run, first time around. Out of the other folks that were there, everyone else had been in that queue at least 2 or 3 times and been passed over, some even up to 5. So we became extremely excited and brought that back to our school committee to say, hey, we were just selected for a new project, where do we start? That excitement hasn't stopped. Am I nervous about this project right now? Absolutely. But it's an excitable nervousness because it's coming to an end. The taxpayers of Whitman are finally going to see what we've presented and be given an opportunity to vote for what's best for the students of Whitman. Something that they haven't had, or we haven't had an opportunity for our students to see or to have. So we submitted in 2019 our SOI, we were approved. Our next model, and of course COVID hits, perfect timing. So in 2020, when we went out with COVID, I formed a building committee, and that building committee was made up of school committee members, residents of town who had architectural or engineering experience, teachers, a finance committee person, and a board of selectmen. It wasn't a group of people that I just wanted to put together and say, hey, this is a definite yes, or a bunch of yes people to whatever project we wanted to put together. If you watch back the many hours of building committee meetings, there was a lot of go back and forth about what's in the best interest of our students and how come it costs so much. So this project wasn't a slam dunk to put in front of the voters that let's just take the best project or the most expensive project. We actually think we put the best project in place for a reasonable amount of money through that back and forth conversation with members of the building committee. So in 2022, we went through the feasibility study, which was a site analysis. We hired our OPM, we hired our architect, as Fred explained before. We came up in 2023 with our schematic design, which was a 5 through 8 new school with an auditorium. And then, of course, you saw, as Mike presented, the cost estimates of $135 and then $89. The Mass School Building Authority contributes to this project. We would like them to contribute more, but that's not where we're at right now. So the total cost to the Whitman taxpayers is $89 million, give or take. Okay? So that's where we're at right now. You want that one?
Sure. So, again, I'm George Farrar. I was here for 15 years. Many of you know, we did it right here. My daughter was married. As your students got here, if I ended the last day of school with the 8th graders now as young adults. I'm also live at 320 Harvard Street. So I moved into Whitman 18 years ago. My children went through this school. I coached here. I did everything that a townsperson should do because I fell in love with the place, and I think it's a good place to raise families. Previous to that, I started in New Bedford at grade 7, 8, Old Junior High. 1,400 kids, grade 7 and 8. We got a community police station downstairs. That's where I taught. I then moved to Westport, Mass. In Westport, Mass, I was then an assistant principal there for 4 years. The very first year, they went to 5 to 8. I then come to this building, and it's grade 6 to 8. So I really never left middle school, except when I went to the central office. We deal with adults and problems now. But middle school was where I spent my whole life. Probably where my maturity maxed out at some point. When we talked about what it is that we want for students, truthfully, when you look at it, a 5 to 8 middle school encompasses roughly the grades 10 to the ages 10 to 14. When you look at the society and the world we live in now, that group of students should be together because it goes through the maturation process of their young bodies. And it starts with leaving the home where mom wants to know every single thing you're doing. So by the time you're spring of 8th grade, if you have kids, you know that. They don't want to talk to you. You're not smart anymore. They don't want to listen to you. Sometimes you get them back grade ages 16 to 17, usually easier for boys. The committee decided, we think it was best for 5 to 8. There is a money price tag to that, we all know that. Again, I live in this town also. For the grade 5 to 8, when you look at the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District, and some people just want to look at the Whitman side of it, or the Hanson side of it. We have the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District, and every student should have a similar life experience. So if a student in Hanson has the ability to go to a middle school and have a middle school setting, I believe the students in Whitman should also. If a student expresses themselves or learns to express themselves at an auditorium-type setting, because they might not be on the ball field, they might not play on the Field of Dreams, they might not play on what the Whitman Youth Soccer put last year, and we see the field and thank you for that. But they might express themselves and grow themselves on a stage. It might be poetry, might be music, might be singing, might be an instrument. If you go to Whitman-Hanson, you deserve a similar life experience. Because when you get to 9th grade, the majority of our students come together. And it's incumbent upon a school district to do that. I'm speaking as both a taxpayer, and I'm speaking as both a person who believes in what the educational system we did. And that group decided overwhelmingly by the majority to vote for this 5 to 8.
Good. So during the process of evaluating what option we were going to select, we had to come up, or we had to vote on, and we had a rubric. Every member had to fill out a rubric and a tally sheet on which option we would score. Option one was a base repair. Option 3A was an addition with a renovation with an auditorium, 2-story, 6 to 8. Option 7A was a 5 through 8 addition renovation with an auditorium, 2-story. 4B, 6 through 8 new construction, no auditorium, 3-story. 5B, 6 through 8 new construction with auditorium, 3-story. Option 8B, 5 through 8 new construction, no auditorium, 3-story. And option 9B, 5 through 8 new construction with auditorium, 3-story. So if you look at the numbers all the way through, we did it mathematically. Option 9B, the 5 through 8 with an auditorium, was the highest scoring, which met the needs of everyone off that evaluation sheet on that committee. Now, it wasn't a slam dunk. And then when we voted this even, there was back and forth. But by majority of that committee vote, and I believe it was 16 or 17, the committee has had up to 17, and I think we're at 15 now, just because of people moving around or dropping off committees. That was the selection that we moved forward. And again, my opinion, and I'll back up George on this, my opinion, in the best interest of our students and of this community moving forward is a 5 through 8 with an auditorium that will give those students that similar-like experience. Plus throw in someplace for this community to have. There is no place for this community to have an event. We're in a cafeteria right now. I would much rather be in an auditorium for this type of meeting. So that's what we selected. The new Whitman Middle School, the construction, 138,605 gross square footage middle school. You saw that slideshow or that video presentation. Willard Auditorium is most educationally appropriate for students 2023 moving forward. It's flexible, it's sustainable, and it's cost effective. These are the folks that put that together. It's energy efficient. It's got all those things that in a building we want to move forward, which will save money in the long run over energy costs and facility, things like that. Brandon.
Oh, fun. You want the mic or?
Your turn next.
I think a lot of you know me. I'm Bob Curran. I first got on the building committee when first got on the building committee when I was the building commissioner. I retired last year, and I asked the committee to allow me to stay on because I believe that we need a new school. Just to go over some of the building code items, this school was built in 1972. The first Massachusetts building code came out in 1975. So there was a lot of guidance on how to build buildings before the building code, but it wasn't near what it is today. So there's a lot of things like seismic requirements, energy code. I think when the school was built, you didn't need insulation in the walls. So we're faced with that. And then, so the 1975, the first building code came out, and it wasn't until 1986 that the ADA was established, and it didn't go into regulations until 1991. So when this school was built, there wasn't requirements for bathrooms, for stalls, for turning radiuses, for door handles, hardware, and all that. So they didn't even consider people with disabilities. And the International Building Code came out in 1997, and the first realistic energy code was in the year 2000. Whitman adopted, and I was a big supporter of it, in 2016, the Stretch Energy Code, which is leaps and bounds better than what's here right now. It's important to know that the new school would have to meet that Stretch Energy Code requirement, which is the strictest energy code we've ever seen. So that was established in 2010, and we adopted it at town meeting in 2016. As far as the deficiencies here in the building, the educational, I'm not real familiar with all that. But I do know that all the toilet rooms are non-compliant. There's not enough fixtures. There's not a turning radius for wheelchairs. The total plumbing fixtures aren't appropriate. There's not enough toilets, not enough urinals. There's urinals that are the wrong height. Egress stairs are all wrong. The width in the stairway is wrong. Corridors, the width is wrong. This building, if we end up repairing this existing building, I think the estimates are up near $60 million. A lot of that triggers other items that the building code requires because it's considered a major renovation, such as seismic modifications, things that we would have to do to this building that would not affect the educational part of these kids' curriculum. So we've spent $60 million with no great benefit. The other thing is there is not enough windows in this building. The code requirement is 8% of the floor area is supposed to be windows. You can see that that doesn't exist here. And 4% of that, for the most part, has to be operable for ventilation. The heating system is inadequate. There's not enough airflow here. There's no fresh air getting into the building, which is required in new construction. There's a lot of electrical that is way outdated. I think this at one time was done with electric heat. That's all gone now, and all of there's no movement. The boilers have had it. The electrical room is way outdated. There's a lot of electrical under the floors here, which would, if we did a renovation, would all have to be dug up. So it doesn't make any sense to rehab this building. As far as the exterior envelope, the roof is pitched wrong. Just over time it settles, the insulation gets moisture in it and it starts to settle, and then water pools on the roof and it gets through the sidewall or the brick. To repoint this building is probably $3 or $4 million. It in itself it just doesn't make any sense. The water's getting in there, infiltrates, it freezes in the winter and it causes more of a problem. all the lintels in the building that I've looked at all the lintels, and they're rusting, and a lintel is a piece of metal that goes over a doorway, and it holds the weight of the brick above it. They're gotta be replaced, so the renovation just doesn't make sense. Next slide. Oh, that's it, I'm done. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
All right, we can go through these kind of quickly. A lot of these are kind of self-explanatory. A lot of these are current deficiencies that the building has as of right now, things that would be solved with the new building. So, you know, I'm here for youth soccer all the time. The fact that the fields are unplayable and have been a lot, drainage would be fixed. One of the biggest issues too that would be fixed is kind of the car pickup drop-off line, especially with the buses. With moving the school in back, creating a longer line, queue line, and developing a separate bus drop-off and pickup line that would help. This right here is probably one of the most important of the slides I'm going to be describing. All of these are classrooms here. So this is floor 1 and floor 2. Anything that's in the red is lower square footage than what the MSBA guidelines allows, which is 850 square feet for a classroom. So every single one of these classrooms is smaller than what the state guidance is. So the ones that you see are bigger would be our gymnasium, multi-purpose room, our library, our girls' locker room, for example. So those are bigger. In part of the tour that will go on in a little while, you'll see just the size of these classrooms and how small they are. For you get 20 to 25 kids in there. There's not a lot of movement as far as that goes. Actually, you want to go back? Are you able to go back? So, you know, for instance, another thing, renovation is something we looked at in the building committee. Were we to renovate this building, we would have been able to keep a much larger gymnasium, so that's something that we talked about. So this is over 8,000 square feet, I believe, and the one in the new building is 6,000, a little over 6,000 square feet. So, you know, there's pluses and minuses in both of those. Go ahead. This is an example of a room. I'll show you guys on a tour if you guys want to go later. Undersized classroom, no windows, poor ventilation, you know, issues with that. You'll see all across the building, ceiling tiles are down because of water that's coming in for various things. Again, Bob talked about this a lot, non-compliant sinks, fixtures, cabinets, all of these would have to be fixed were we to go up to code compliance. I think this place kind of speaks for itself. So we do have quite a bit of community issues. These are some air conditioners that we've tried to put in here. Bob talked about the electrical issues. We're not really able to put air conditioning in every single classroom. It trips a lot of our breakers, even the few that we have in here right now. And you can see a lot of the rust issues. This is what the roof should be looking like. A lot of our roof kind of looks like this right here, rusting roof decking. Because of our humidity issues that are in the building, the floor gets entirely slippery. Those of you that were here for my parent open house night had to have fans going because it gets dangerous in here. It's like an ice rink on some of these floors. Here's the boilers, some of the systems that Bob was talking about at the end of their life. I have one of these open that you guys can see on the tour tonight if you want. These unit ventilators are They were built with the school, so they're back in 1972, 1970, so they're original. This is really the only kind of ventilation airflow that are in these classrooms.
So what that is that is a door to the outside of that picture, the univent does. So that's what lets air come in. And it's made with actually a Singer. If you remember, some of you would have to ask, maybe your moms or maybe you remember, but a Singer sewing machine battery, a sewing machine motor, that was the company that actually put this in 1972. So we bought a few off eBay about 8 years ago. No lie, because they weren't making them anymore, we couldn't replace them. So we found them on eBay, and Ernie, the former director, bought some, so that as we lose some, we can at least replace it.
You see some of the compromised masonry, some of the repoint that needs to be made. I think Bob said it'd be millions of dollars just to repoint the building. You can see it in several places and positions. We do have a lot of shots of the roof. Here's one with the compromised roof scenes. And I invite you to come with me in a little bit. We can see it up close.
Okay, so there are other schools that are out there existing right now. So the Beverly Middle School you have pictures of, the Kennedy Middle School, there's pictures of Abington here, there's pictures of, these are middle school students in a radius of about 45 miles and what they're getting. And the reason why this is important is because we can put as much lipstick as we want on this building, but soon, very soon, most of our 8th graders go to the high school. Some of our 8th graders go to vocational schools or they go to other schools. But they all come together when their schooling is over at 18, whether that's for the job force, the armed services, or whether that's for some type of college or training. So all of our students should have the ability, like other students they have, as they get older, they can be on the same level playing field. And sometimes that's what I think this is all about. These are just pictures, Gates, Chapman, and Weymouth, socioeconomically quite different. Some pictures came up, some people asked, well, they're a more wealthy town, they're a more wealthy town. If you really dig into it, it's all an average. It's all an average. But all of these things do come with cost. But there's Abington, there's East Bridgewater, there's Holbrook, there's Phelps, right around us. Most of these towns also have school choice like we do. So students can come, students can go. So that's just something to think about also. But those are just pictures of what's around us at some of the middle schools that are being built or have been built within the last 8 to 10 years.
So cost-conscious design approach. The mentality of cost-conscious design started at the very, very beginning of the process, before any design actually occurred. Placement of the building, location of the building. As we got further into the design process, what does a two-story versus a 3-story building look like from a cost perspective? A 3-story is less expensive, less foundations, less roof area. Looking at the vertical height from floor to floor, fine-tuning the vertical height to make sure you have enough vertical space for mechanical systems, for the volume of space, for the type of space, but reducing structural steel, reducing exterior envelope material, reducing the volume so the operation of the building will be less. Looking at the positioning of the building, the orientation, making sure we're looking at the heat loads and maximizing natural daylight but minimizing heat gain. Looking at the economy of scale, the size of exterior materials, using proportions and material standards to make sure waste is reduced. Looking at the, we talked about sustainability and the stretch code, making sure that we can maximize mass save rebates. Over $400,000 will be provided back to the town once this project is complete based on rebates. Also, 2 additional reimbursement points from the Massachusetts School Building Authority based on the energy efficiency and the sustainability of this building. So a lot has gone into the discussions surrounding cost-conscious design. Now, you'll also notice here, and you can look at the Massachusetts School Building Authority's website. This is directly from the website. You'll see green line, that's the reimbursement rate. The orange line is construction costs. The dots identify individual projects within the Massachusetts State Building Authority's pipeline, the Common Core pipeline. They've been tracking construction costs for over 15 years. You can see 2016, the graph we went back to, going through the construction costs, you can see how the construction costs have continued to increase. All of the cost-conscious design approach that has occurred over the last 16 months is important because this middle school design construction cost is about $770 a square feet. Now that is less than the average of all of the peer projects within the same timeline within the Massachusetts State Building Authority's core program. That's a significant difference. We're well below the average from a cost perspective on this particular project. So the importance of highlighting cost-conscious design is significant. And you can find this on the Massachusetts School Building Authority's website. They publish it. It's a interactive graph, and you can see it for yourself.
So ultimately, cost-conscious design, it's the most cost-effective design to meet the educational program. That's important, is that we're trying to make sure we have an educational program that meets today's standards and is also for the next 50 years, right? This building is being built for 50 years. So we need to have some flexibility built into that so that we can work through that. And this design has accomplished that, or will accomplish that as we move forward. What does it mean to the average taxpayer? We have to find what the bond value is once we get to that point where we're doing an actual bond assessment on it. We could do some bands, different things like that in between. But looking at it right now, if we were going to do it today, we would probably recommend a 30-year bond, 5.5% interest rate, assuming the average home value in the town is $420,000, which is all information that has come right from the assessor's office. The average annual cost per taxpayer is $1,017. $1,494 in the first year, $596 in the last year, but it's that average of about $1,000 per year. And we understand that that's something that's important for people to understand, but it's really for the future of the children here. That's what we're looking at, that educational need for that.
I think George.
So this is what's next, folks. You have a town meeting coming up on the 30th. That's the first phase. If it were to pass there, it would then go to a vote on November the 4th. So that's the next two milestones that are coming up. What does a yes vote mean? Yes vote means at town meeting, we go to the debt exclusion vote or the vote on November the 4th, and then jump over here. They would enter into phase 6. This project would go to phase 6, project scope and budget phase. The design team will proceed with the development and construction documents, and the project will go out to bid and enter construction. The goal would be in fall of '27 to have a new Whitman Middle School opening. So that is first graders would get the full middle school. Second graders would get 3 years. Third graders would get 2 years. I'm not a math major. Fourth graders would get the 1, and we move on from there. But that is what it looks like the next phases. I'm sure there's questions. I'm sure there's things that people smarter than me will answer. But I really appreciate it for most people we've seen. Right. So we did this for like 8 the other day. But I really appreciate it. It's a big ask. It's a big ask. But it's also a big issue. It's a big issue. So everybody gets their, town meeting, everybody gets their votes. We let the democratic process go forward. But I would say that I believe, truthfully, that students at any level in Whitman should have what Hanson has, and Whitman should also have what every student around them has the opportunity to have. I went to school in the 70s, and our desks were bolted in. Had a little inkwell. Those are the kind of desks I had. But those times aren't here anymore. So thank you for staying. Thank you for listening. I'm sure it's going to go to someone else right now, and we'll go from there.
Let me just hit up on the no piece of it a little bit. This is where we stand if there's a no vote. Again, history guy, George was obviously not math, history guy as well. Democratic process, and that's what when I mentioned right at the beginning. I'm excited to get to the voters. There's been a lot of work, and I want to say thank you again to the building committee. They've been working since 2020. I thought it was going to be like a 2-year snap process. Well, we're into year 5 of this SOI to here, and as George said, fall of 27, so we're looking at another three years plus. If you vote no, the town has 120 days from the MSBA vote to pass the project. Both towns vote by March of 2024, so that's 120 days from now. Whitman would forfeit the opportunity to receive the max grant of $45 million, so the $45 million is gone. Whitman will be required to withdraw from the MSBA grant program. The district would submit another statement of interest, or SOI, and if eligible, and then be invited back in, and I don't know if that would be another one-timer. If eligible, Whitman would enter the feasibility study again. If that were to happen, let's just say it's a no vote. We go back to the drawing board. It's another 5-year process with another 5 years. we're not opening a building, or if we end up with a base renovation for some reason at a cost of 60-something million dollars, without the cost of portables, without the cost of kids not being in this building for 3 to 5 years. We're looking at, again, I'm using my math, 2033. I'm hoping that that doesn't go that way. Can you do the next one? Go ahead, Mike.
All right, so the last thing we want to talk about here, and we're going to have questions and answers at the end here, is there's been a rumor out there that if we did fail to vote on the 4th, that we could very quickly redesign this and resubmit it and kind of move forward without any loss of time, without that process that Jeff was just explaining. This is something that we reviewed with the MSBA prior to the submission of the SD package, the schematic design package. It's something that we reviewed with them and the district after that submission, and then I followed up again a third time, and they told us unequivocally that that is not true. Once the MSBA has voted on this project, so we've already submitted, they're in the process of voting on it, they're going to be voting on the board on the 25th of October. That vote comes out and we have what's called a 3011 project funding agreement. You have the project funding is based off of that. We also have a space summary that we've already submitted. That space summary outlines every space that we're going to be building in that building. Those two documents are locked, and that's the project moving forward. There's always some design development through that where you're adjusting things slightly here and there, but it's not major changes. So we have reviewed that. If we are not successful on the 4th, then what would happen is we'd have to have a plan to move forward with that project, with the project we have right now. If we don't have that project, then you're going to have to withdraw, and we're going to have to go through that process that Jeff outlined.
Yeah, it's a really, I'm going to reiterate that point, because if the district or anybody thinks that a failed vote allows you to design a 6 through 8 middle school without an auditorium, changing the scope at all, that is not accurate. And as Mike said, the MSBA has multiple times told us and the district that this is not accurate information. This cannot occur. So the project scope and budget is locked in. The district cannot redesign and resubmit under this current SOI. You would go right back to the beginning of the process. As superintendent said, it took 5 years or 4 years to get here, and then the building is another 2 to 3 years, 2027 to construct. So that cannot occur. That example is not accurate whatsoever.
And then last but not least, what you were just saying with getting back to this point, we're getting ready to move into the next module. The MSBA has modules. We're moving into module 6. If we were to start over, what we've done over the last 4 years, modules 1 through 5, that all is a town cost at that point. Right now, the MSBA is sharing those costs with you. They're splitting that with a reimbursement. That does not happen if you go back because you've had a failed vote. So the MSBA would be looking for the town to pay for that part of it as well.
So we believe it's now's the time, again, going to the vote. Building, if you've seen the building is tighter, and our kids deserve more. The space doesn't support 2023 education. Brandon showed a video today of the pipe that burst or is leaking in the hallway. I was over here in September skating along with them on the floors that were full of humidity. We are in the grant program. We're lucky to be in the grant program, and I don't want to give that opportunity away, so the time is now. There's video, there are quite a few very well done videos by Mr. Pulkinen. Hit that QR code. This is the project on the district website. Just hit on the building project. You'll be able to come right to it and see all the updates. All the forums are videoed. All the building committee meetings are open to the public. We have one tomorrow. We discuss things. But all those have minutes, and there are video recordings of those as well. You can catch up from 2019 if you wish, if you have nothing to do on a Saturday. Must-see TV of those building committee projects. And then Monday the 30th is town meeting. Should be a very spirited discussion on the floor, and then hopefully that vote on November 4th. We're hoping for tours. We have folks for tours. That concludes the formal part of this. Brandon's going to give some tours, and there'll be some of us around for Q&A. So very much appreciate you coming out today.
Yeah, if you have specific questions, you can come up and ask them.
This is probably specifically for colliers. How many recent projects have failed to vote at the town meeting, reapplied, gone back to the system, and ended up paying more high costs for an equivocal or less substantial building?
So I believe we've had 4 projects that have gone back and failed and then gone back and reapplied. 3 of those 4 did get back in. Every one of them paid more. I'll just tell you right now, the longer you wait, the higher the construction costs go. That graph that Troy was showing that's from the MSBA, that historic cost, every once in a while it has a little like localized blip, but it's going up. It's continuing that upward trend.